Okay, hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Tsolmon Enkhbold, specialist budget officer at the Fiscal Policy and Planning Department of Ministry of Finance of Mongolia. So I will present you all today about how Mongolia is implementing green development and greening revenue policies, what are the challenges, and so on. Okay, first of all, I will give a brief introduction of how Mongolia is committing for green development and for green transition. So in the long term, Mongolia has approved the Vision 2050 for the first time, which is a long-term development policy consisting of 9 fundamental goals. And as you can see, green development is one of them. Within the framework of Vision 2050, main objectives of green development are climate change mitigation, prevent water scarcity, promote sustainable water use and management, evaluate and protect the value and benefits of nature resources, and maintain a balance of primary ecosystems. And the last one is rehabilitate natural resources. Moving on to the next slide, this is the main action and key example of one of the measures that have reflected in a long-term development policy side, and one of the comprehensive solutions to mitigate desertification in Mongolia and to protect against sand migration. So these are the main objectives that have reflected in this. The first one is for forest degradation, and the second one is mitigate desertification, and the third one is increasing green facilities. So the total 1.3 billion trees is to be completed by 2030 with the purpose of increasing greenhouse gas absorption and reducing soil degradation and preventing water scarcity as well. Therefore, in the short term, Mongolia has approved the nationally determined contribution in 2020. As you all may know, Mongolia has a severe air pollution problem and one of the most polluted cities in the world. So the first objective is air pollution in our capital city will be reduced by 80%. And the second one is 55% of freshwater resources will be under special state protection. And the next one is related to mining industry. Additional information is that Mongolia's economy is highly dependent on the mining industry. So the land damaged due to mining activities will be rehabilitated. The fourth one is greenhouse gas emissions will be reduced by 12.3% by implementing effective and inclusive green development policies to mitigate climate change. The last one is forest area will be increased to 8.6%, and the legal framework will provide financial incentives to citizens and enterprises that contribute green development by planting trees. So approximately, Mongolia will need $11.5 billion to meet its nationally determined contribution target, $6.3 billion for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and approximately $5 billion for adapting to climate change. So the next one is current environmental situation right now in Mongolia. Average air temperature rise over the last 80 years is twice the world average. And Mongolia is one of the countries that is most affected by the climate change. And as you can see, approximately 76% of the territory is affected by desertification and land degradation. And half of the total area is classified as severely desertified. And for the air pollution level, as I mentioned before, air quality index reached 169, which is 18 times higher than the World Health Organization recommended level. And lastly, one per capita gas emissions is 2.7 times higher than the world average. So to deal with these whole environmental situations and for transitioning into a greener economy, how Ministry of Finance and Government of Mongolia is currently taking action with fiscal policy, specifically on the revenue side. So the first one is Ministry of Finance and the Government of Mongolia is now providing tax incentives for an economic entity that support the green development and renewable energy sector. The next one is related to Mongolia's livestock industry. Once it accounted for about 90% of the agricultural production, it is now facing major challenges, which is excess capacity of pastures. So in response to this new tax instrument, which is livestock tax, has been introduced and implemented since 2020. And the third one is related to air pollution. So we have approved the law on air pollution fee. So in accordance with this law, 50% of air pollution fee will be allocated to the local budget in order to reduce carbon emissions. So first one is related to mining industry as well. So this is about the half of the environmental rehabilitation costs will be collected from the mining companies to enhance mining's contribution to sustainable development. Lastly, we are currently imposing taxes on natural resources, which is natural resource reserves fee. So this fee is allocated to the local budgets for green activities. So I will further discuss natural resource reserves fees and air pollution fee in the following slides. So that concludes the main revenue policies we are currently implementing right now. But on the tax expenditure side, there are certain tax reductions is available from, for example, corporate income tax for an economic entity that support green development. For instance, income tax on sales of environmentally friendly equipment that promote efficient use of natural resources and reducing environmental pollution can get a tax reduction up to 90%. On the other side, enterprises engaged in the mineral exploration, extraction, transportation, and radioactive minerals is excluded from certain tax credits. This includes the corporate income tax credit as well. As previously mentioned, Mongolia is imposing fees on natural resources. These are the fees we are now currently imposing right now: land resource, water resource fee, hunting license fee, forest resource use fee, and plant resource use fee. So the law is approved in 2012. So this fee is fully used for environmental protection or rehabilitation measures. And as you can see, on the right side, this scheme shows how the budgeting process is like with the state budget and local budget. So this fee is allocated to the local budget. So Ministry of Finance will prepare the draft budget, and then it goes to the local authority. Local authority can adjust the amount by increasing the revenue within the Ministry of Finance's prepared draft budget, and then this scheme goes down to the below Provincial Environment and Tourism Office. So basically, the revenues on this will be fully spent for environmental protection and rehabilitation measures. To clarify, on the expenditure side, Ministry of Finance has a key role in this too, but expenditure policy is not included in this presentation. So, moving on to the next slide, second major fee related to green development in Mongolia is air pollution fee. Mongolia is imposing this fee since 2010, and based on the carbon dioxide emission from transport facilities and vehicles, raw coal, and organic solvent. Even though we are collecting pollution fee from air polluters, as shown in graphic, greenhouse gas emission is not sufficiently reduced, and the absorption is, on the other side, is reducing right now. So we are now seeing air pollution fee is the first step in revenue policy side to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And Government of Mongolia and the Ministry of Finance is conducting research on the possibility of introducing a carbon tax in Mongolia. So to conclude the whole green transition in Mongolia, although Mongolia's long-term and short-term development policies include detailed measures to be implemented in the framework of green development and supporting reforms to a green economy, there are some certain challenges we are facing on the implementation side, and especially on the revenue policy side as well. For instance, tax instruments we are currently having right now is not the best solution to fully implement the objectives of green development. Especially the air pollution fee is not influensive to the greenhouse gas emission. So we are now conducting research on the carbon tax, as I mentioned before. And from the Government of Mongolia and Ministry of Finance of Mongolia is currently have a policy to provide tax exemptions, reliefs, and other incentives to promote green transition. That is all. Thank you all for listening.